Everyone, Matt here from Docs Running, and today we're going to do a 100-mile review on the Saucony Guide 17. So we did an initial review of this and then a full written review, but I just wanted to update you after 100 miles how this thing was doing, because it's a pretty big departure from the Saucony Guide series, which has been Saucony's standard stability daily neutral training shoe. Some of the big changes occur is kind of the difference in the midsole shaping, a removal of the medial post or the medial like plastic arch piece, and just a complete redesign of this shoe overall. So want to go, hey, how has this changed, if any, and what do I think about it, and who I think it might be best for? So we'll go through that. Let's again start with specs as always. So men's size 9 is coming in at 9.4 ounces for men's size 9, 8.1 ounces for women's size 8, 35 millimeters in the heel, 29 in the forefoot for a now 6 millimeter drop, which is a little bit lower than the previous 8 millimeter drop that we saw. So a little bit more foam in the forefoot. The midsole is still full length Power Run, but the insole is Power Run Plus. So people that like replacing your insoles know that Saucony does put some effort into their insoles to actually make it a little bit more responsive and really tailored to creating a nice step and feel. So the feel overall compared to the previous version is softer. The Guide 16 was pretty firm underfoot and snappy, and that plastic piece on the insole was really prevalent, so much so that I actually preferred the Ride 16 over the Guide 16 because it was stable neutral and honestly way more comfortable. This changes that, where the Guide 17 and Ride 17 are totally different. Now this is the stability version or guidance version of the two of them, and the sole again really different, more rocker underfoot. That was apparent the second I put it on. Even though the heel stack height is similar, it does feel a little bit higher off the ground, just because I think the sidewalls are really more prevalent on each side. Again, both medial and lateral, so it's not just one. And again, the rocker is way more massive than the previous one. So as soon as you get into the shoe, really feels like you're rolling along, which is really nice, because the goal with this was to create a rocker to get you forward, and that's part of the center path technology, is going, hey, we want to bring you back to the middle and get you forward. That's the whole purpose of running. So that's kind of where they started with the rocker profile, which definitely feels you're definitely going to be aware of it, and it's continued to be prevalent throughout it. It has broken in just a little bit as miles have come in, but that rocker has continued to be something that's prevalent in this shoe as you run it. So just know that's not something you like. This is going to be there, right? So the other aspects of the center path technology is trying to guide you into the middle. Saucony moved away from going, hey, we're going to do a plastic piece on the middle and try to push you laterally. It's now got sidewalls on the medial and lateral side, like I said, that really focus on keeping you centered and bringing you back to the middle and then getting you forward. And that is really apparent as you run in it. I actually didn't like this shoe when I first put it on, because the heel bevel is actually angled just like fairly central, if a teeny bit medial, and there's a good amount buildup right here in this what became a crash pad, and I kind of felt uncomfortable at first. I was like, wow, I kind of want to be able to go lateral instead of my excessive medial movement that I typically have. But as the shoe broke in, what I found is this became a crash pad, and a really nice one that really cushioned my landing. So no, this shoe does take a second to break in, but as the miles piled up, I found that it actually broke into my mechanics, which is very nice. Typically when that happens, when a shoe's breaking in, it tends to exacerbate your mechanics in one way or another. This one tends to kind of bring you back to the middle as it breaks in, because there is stuff on either side that helps kind of start pulling you toward the middle. The medial side, despite there not being a post or a plastic piece, still has pressure along the medial side of the foot, even into the forefoot. So there is a good sidewall here on the medial forefoot, and I did feel that. So people that like that medial arch feeling, it is still there. It's not super aggressive like the plastic shank of the previous version, but it is still there, and I felt it the entire 100+ miles I've been running in these. So again, really nicely getting into the middle, and it's a little weird at first to go, wow, I actually have something bringing me from lateral to medial, but it doesn't push you that far, because if you start rolling this way too much, it'll again do the same thing to bring you back. So really just kind of the way to think about this is, you got these sidewalls and you got this technology in the midsole that's just kind of trying to keep you in the middle, right? Instead of just pushing you away, which is really nice. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to that as the shoe breaks in, which it only took like 10 or so miles, and it felt great. And it's continued to feel exactly the same over these 100 miles. The outsole has remained intact over what is now 104 miles. I haven't broken through it. It just has some fairly normal wear that I would really expect at 100 miles, and probably less so than I would expect for me at 100 miles, but it's been fine. The AVA foam has still retained that kind of traditional, like, not traditional, but it just feels good underfoot. It's not super responsive. It's very different from the feel of the Ride. So if you want a lot more pop in your step, the Ride 17 is going to give that to you, but I think they kept this just a teeny bit firmer being a relative term, being much softer than the previous version, still a little bit less bouncy underfoot because the goal is to roll you forward. And sometimes when things are really bouncy, they also become unstable. This is not the case with this shoe. It feels like a rollered and rockered ride. Doesn't feel super bouncy underfoot, but does feel softer than previous versions. And there's plenty of cushioning, which works really well for easy runs and long runs. Just when you need to put on something that's you want to be able to rely on, it's really, really nice. I've also walked for miles in this shoe. This is the shoe that I've taken with me and kind of been my standard shoe for walking in airports and longer days on my feet. And it's been really nice for that. It rolls along. So if you also want this as a walking shoe, it does well, but I'd really encourage you, please don't walk extensively in the same pair of shoes that you run in because they will wear out faster. And there's actually some suggestion and evidence, early evidence on that. So the other thing I want to talk about is the upper, which is really, really changed. So there is more room in this upper. The last version fit just a little bit snug. Things have opened up a little bit, both slightly volume wise and definitely a little bit width wise. So I feel like I have just enough room in this shoe. Doesn't feel like I'm swimming, but feels like I have just enough room for everything to feel comfortable. The tongue is gusseted, never gave me a problem. The heel counter is somewhat flexible. It's there and it never bothered me because there's plenty of cushioning in the heel collar and it's rounded. Those people that are really sensitive know that as the shoe breaks in, you may notice it. I didn't at all. The upper's been really comfortable and honestly something that just disappears on my feet and I forget about. But I'm really liking where Saucony is going with this series. I think they've maintained it really well. I think they've gotten into the new age of kind of the evidence behind understanding that there's like a center path or a preferred motion paradigm. We tend to kind of move in a certain way, and the goal should be to guide you toward the center. It's not that we need to get you to the extremes or need to keep you in the center all the time. It's just to kind of bring you a little bit back there. And I think this shoe has done a really good job of that, and I'm really enjoying them. I think they're going to last a good amount of time. I think it'll last fairly standard amount of miles, maybe a little bit more. But it's just been a good shoe to get daily miles on, get long runs, something that I trust and keep going back to, which unfortunately I'm not going to be able to go back to now because now I have to get miles on other shoes. But it's just been a fun shoe to run in. So if you're someone that maybe that plastic shank last time or midfoot post don't work really well for you, but you still want to be kind of centered and you need a guided shoe, this is a great option. If you want a rocker shoe with a little bit relatively lower drop, this also might be a really, really good option for you. Or if you're someone that goes, hey, I don't know if I supinate or pronate, but I just want something that's a little bit more stable. This is something that, again, is going to keep you in the middle, which is really, really nice and in line with current evidence. So that's the 100-mile review of the Saucony Guide 17. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope that helped you make a decision about whether this shoe might work for you or not. And stick around because we'll always have more reviews.